What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Marquee on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, we've got my co-host, Tommy.
Greetings, Captain. The mildly Bostonian is back to enthusiastically discuss the impact of the cinematic experience through one of the best weekends it has ever had in its history.
Oh, absolutely. And joining us, we've got Miss Tyler.
Hello, people. I cannot wait to tell you some history stories.
And we've got Meredith.
I can.
Yes, this is our official review / discussion of Barbenheimer, which, for those who are living under a rock, is the historic double feature of Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. We obviously have a lot to discuss for each individual film, but I want to give the floor to those who actually committed to the Barbenheimer experience. So Meredith, I'll start with you. How was your Barbenheimer experience?
Oh man, Barbenheimer was wild. My Barbenheimer started actually on that Wednesday night, the 19th. I was able to get tickets to Barbie's blowout party at a few select theaters here in LA. So I got to see Barbie that night. And then on Thursday, the 20th, I did the official double feature. I saw Oppenheimer first, and then there was about a 50-minute break in between Oppenheimer ending and Barbie beginning. So I did it with a friend of mine, and we quickly grabbed food, got a shot of tequila because we needed something like hard to kind of process what we watched with Oppenheimer to jump back in and go see Barbie. And so both of them were late nights, both of them had outfits involved, and it was everything that I was hoping Barbenheimer would be.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty fun night. Tyler, what about you? Describe your Barbenheimer experience.
Well, I went on a Thursday. That was an experience. Went to like a local theater where I live. Half the staff were wearing pink. The other half were wearing tweed. It's pretty clear exactly whose side they were on. Each film we went of the two films I went to, at like about 80% of the people around me had pink on. There were people with like cowgirl hats on. A couple people were wearing fedoras. It was incredible. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. Like, it was packed. I did a late night showing of Oppenheimer, somewhat late-ish Barbie. It's like full theater, packed to the gills, and everyone also behaved perfectly fine. No one got up and went like, "Oh, I'm using my phone now." No, everyone was very quiet and clapped. They had fun. They probably gasped at a few points. I couldn't have asked for a better night, frankly.
I'm glad to hear that your audience was very well behaved, as I'm apparently hearing a lot more horror stories about like too many people in movie theaters like busting out their phones, taking screenshots like in the theater. Like, guys, come on. You're in a public space, not your living room.
Yeah, also sympathies to all the employees. Apparently it was like the hardest weekend of their lives.
Yeah, I don't blame them. For better or for worse, this is probably one of the busiest weekends in all of cinema, at the very least, like post-pandemic.
Top 5 of all time, apparently.
Now, Tommy, did you do the full Barbenheimer experience, or did you have to like do what I did and kind of like split them up?
I splitted them up, but even if and I'm kind of glad that I opted to go down this route, because short and sweet, this is what the experience of going to the movies is all about. Being able to experience both formats in premium formatting, and it just allows you to feel the power of each movie flowing through you. And I believe at the end of the day that I would have experienced the same thing had I done it full on? Probably, but in a way, it allowed a bit of breathing room in between. And it just, the impact. And could the viewer still feel the same way regardless of format? Of course they could have, but just that little extra initiative, that little push. I saw Barbie in Dolby and I saw Oppenheimer in IMAX. And that little extra push was just phenomenal.
Yeah. So what I did is I kind of made a like a Barbie sandwich. So Thursday night I saw Barbie just in regular old standard, no Dolby, no IMAX, whatever. Saturday in the afternoon I went to Oppenheimer in Dolby, and then that night I caught the last screening of Barbie in Dolby, and yeah, that was a pretty memorable experience, and it helps too that both films are just memorable in their own rights. Now, Meredith, I know you actually were on television sharing some opinions about the quote unquote correct order for Barbenheimer.
Yes, but I feel like I need to clarify because it was shortened for purposes. They, in the segment itself, yes, I was on Inside Edition and shared that for the full Barbenheimer day, I was doing Oppenheimer first, Barbie second. But I did see Barbie the night before, and it was like a sandwich as well. And I forgot to mention, I saw Barbie in Dolby, and I saw Oppenheimer in 70 millimeter IMAX. So yes, I technically did it Oppenheimer and Barbie, and I'm glad I did it that way because after the ending of Oppenheimer, I really wanted to leave on a more optimistic note. And I don't think there's a better note to end on than the mic drop moment at the end of Barbie, which we will totally get into later. But to me, that left me leaving on a high that I'm glad that I knew that was coming after I had seen Oppenheimer, to be like, well, existential crisis, great, but I want to experience a little bit more joy leaving the theater than somberness that I felt after I saw Oppenheimer.
I disagree.
Yeah,
because
probably
I,
a good
I,
call.
because I did actually see him both ways out of curiosity. Ooh, just walked out of Oppenheimer just like kind of dazed and confused, going, ooh. And then it's like I can't. That first time, like walked away going, oh, you're not gonna have as much fun with Barbie after watching this. Second time, well, I knew what to expect. It was a bit more fun, but I'm like, I feel like the first time goers, you want to have something a little bit fun before this, because okay, Barbie has some moments, but it's not exactly the weakest of films. Oppenheimer kind of is. It's kind of gonna ruin the rest of your day, I feel.
Now, Tommy, if you had to choose your order for the Barbenheimer double feature, what would you do first?
Oh boy. Well, I I ended up seeing Oppenheimer first because it was due to a time frame, and if I had to absolutely choose which one to see first for particular projects and viewing reasons before discussions, but if I had to do it all over again, I think I would get the same experience either way. That said, I'm still unsure if I would put myself through that double feature without that at least a bit of a break in between, because going through one type of movie into a completely different one without much breathing room in between, I have a feling that it could have taken away from the cinematic experience as a whole. Do I strongly recommend seeing it in one day? Absolutely, pending the environment you're in. But I just think that I don't know if I'd be able to have done so without the same breathing room. The last time I did a double feature of such a magnitude, I was in 2014 with Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Spider-Man, and the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that is. And it was still a wonderful day, but what I remember was I had that bit of breathing room that where I was able to go in, relax, and enjoy myself, and found myself actually enjoying Amazing Spider-Man 2 more as a result.
Interesting.
You really have to plan your day around this because Barbie is not a short movie and Oppenheimer is a very not short movie.
Yeah, that's the reason why I opted not to do like the full double feature, because I needed that breathing room. But I would probably agree with what sounds to be like, based on other people online, starting with Oppenheimer and ending with Barbie, just because you really do want to end on a positive note. But before we get any further, I want to just make it clear that neither one of these movies would exist without the talents of the writers and the many actors who worked on both. And we here at Renegade Pop Culture stand with the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA. And if you want to support people who are affected by the writers and actors strike, please go to entertainmentcommunityfund.org. And yeah, anything that helps these people whose livelihoods have been affected by studios clearly not giving these talented people like the fair wages that they rightfully deserve. Anything you can do to help would be much appreciated.
If I could just have one thing that I would say to, if I was telling them, not to just from a constructionary standpoint, to those executives, listen to them, the writers, the actors, listen to their concerns, hear them out, come together, stay united in the common interest. There's a reason that you are in the position of where you are today, not merely because of their work, but because, and their hard work, but because the common interests of a love for cinema that got us to this point, that got us to where all parties involved are today. And Ke Huy Quan said it best when he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. And I quote, "Never forget where you came from, because if you forget that, all humility goes out the window." End of quote. Pay your writers, listen to them. Pay the actors, listen to their concerns, work with them. Does the deal have to be pitch perfect in their regard? It'd be beneficial, but just listen to their concerns, work with them, and please just listen to them.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't get Barbenheimer without Barbenheimer wouldn't be a success if these films, if these actors, if these creatives were involved with it. So I hope that the studios are taking the right lessons from Barbenheimer. It's
they're
not
not.
to try. Of course they're not, but just I'm trying to be like, take the right lessons from that. You can't recreate Barbenheimer unless you've got two great movies to back it up and to have all of this enthusiasm over it. You can't just turn it out of nothing. So yes, listen to the actors, listen to the writers. You want to keep having more money in your pocket, you can share some of the wealth. Just treat them better. Dang it.
I will note that the fact that Barbenheimer even happened is kind of, I believe, originally supposed to be a slight on Christopher Nolan. That didn't end up becoming that, because as everyone probably knows, he used to work with Warner Brothers all the time, and then after the mess with Tenet and like online streaming, he kind of cut ties with them and went to Universal. And then by pure coincidence, Warner Brothers puts out their biggest film of the summer on the exact same day as his movie, which I think was supposed to be a power move, but in the end, it just accidentally kind of doubled both the film's profits.
Yeah, this is like kind of the classic example of a rising tide raising all ships, or at least these two ships.
Yeah,
Mission Impossible.
Close compare. Oh yeah, Mission Impossible is a good film, but it's been kind of crushed. But the close comparison to this is probably about 3 years back when Animal Crossing came out the same day as Doom Eternal, because that was one of those classic pairings of these two have nothing in common, therefore they now do, and they both sold better as a result.
Oh yeah, I remember that. But let's now get into the meat of these two.
Wait, one more thing, which is this is also kind of amusingly hysterical. There was a Wikipedia war over the term Barbenheimer for like the first couple of weeks of Barbenheimer. Like some guy made an article. Wikipedia wanted to delete it because they said it won't be relevant in like 20 years. And then it turned into like a flame war. And eventually they agreed, sure, make it an article. And then they went over about 50 different pictures of what Barbie should be on the front and if Barbie should have her full name or her nickname. Like if you look at like the page edit history, it's a complete nightmare.
Oh boy.
And eventually they had to settle for a picture of Julius Robert Oppenheimer next to Barbara Millicent Roberts, and it's the funniest thing. We're just like these two next to each other.
Okay, that is hilarious.
Yes.
I gotta say, at first I was calling all this Oppenheimer, and so the fact that it became Barbenheimer It's more equally balanced, but I still love Oppenheimer a bit too. I love both terms for
Wikipedia also calls it Oppen Barbie.
No one in their right mind would call it
No.
Oppen Barbie.
Mm-mm.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah, no, this is officially just Barbenheimer.
History will remember it one way.
So yeah, I guess now let's actually dive into the meat of the discussion, and we will go in alphabetical order. And by no means does this necessarily indicate which of the two we prefer over the other, but we're gonna start with Barbie because we want to start on a more lighter note. So I'll go around and ask general thoughts on this one. Tyler, I'll start with you. Your general thoughts on Barbie?
A delightful existential subversion on the entire point of femininity. I really like.
Nice. Meredith, what about you?
I absolutely adore this film, from the production design to the costuming to the soundtrack to the script to the acting to the themes presented in this film. I couldn't have asked for better, and I was so scared it would not live up to the hype, but it has succeeded and then some in my mind.
Nice. Tommy, what about you?
Captain Barbie is just a phenomenal experience as a whole, and a wonderful, solid reminder of the cinematic experience in the vein of taking wonderful risks while at the same time being able to learn and evolve.
Well said. For me, I don't think I have felt this jazzed about a movie based on a toy line since the Lego movie. And, aside from both these movies having Will Ferrell play a, very stereotypical corporate executive, Barbie is just one of those, radical, just like a complete burst of creativity from the production design, the performances, the soundtrack, the writing. It's just the complete package. So now we can go a little bit more in depth. Meredith, I'll throw it over to you. What would you say is like your biggest takeaway from the film? Like is there a particular performance that stands out, or like any sort of like any memorable scenes? And I know there's going to be a bunch of them.
I mean, where to begin? I mean, the first takeaway is Greta Gerwig can do anything. Like, I'm very excited now that she's going to be tackling Chronicles of Narnia now, if this is what she did with Barbie. Okay, like, we should not doubt her and her abilities as a writer with Noah Baumbach. He also deserves credit. I give him credit. But her as a director and just the sharpness of this movie, like, give her whatever she wants. She can do whatever she wants, and I will be there opening night. As far as performances go, where to begin? You talked about Will Ferrell just a second ago. I thought he was perfect for exactly what he was doing in this. Michael Cera as Alan, perfection. In a world full of Kens, be an Alan, guys. Just be an Alan. He is so great. But then you get Margot Robbie, Issa Rae, Alexandra Shipp, America Ferrera, Kate McKinnon, just like knocking me out. Just every line of dialogue is just so funny from Kate McKinnon. And I mean, you can't talk about this movie without Ryan Gosling and even Simu Liu. I loved their rivalry that they had between each other. Ryan Gosling as stereotypical Ken. Wow, what a performance. And it was joking at first, like, oh, he should totally get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He absolutely should be nominated, and he should perform I'm Just Ken at the Oscars whenever that is, because that 11th hour musical number was truly sublime. And as far as some of my favorite scenes go, the America Ferrera monologue is obviously a standout. It brings me to tears each time I watch it. But even more so, I would say the scenes between Barbie and Ruth Handler, played by Rhea Perlman, choked me up. Like, having the creator of Barbie meet with stereotypical Barbie, just those moments were just filled with so much joy, but also so much like heartache and, all the complexities that comes with being a woman and what Barbie has come to represent and what Barbie even means to Barbie herself. Like that last scene as Billie Eilish's song, What Was I Made For, with the montage of all of these women, this moves me. It's so beautiful. I will be done soon. I'm sorry. I'm just one of my favorite scenes also is showing the ad for Depressed Barbie.
Yes.
And the BBC miniseries of Pride and Prejudice 1995 pops up, and I'm like, wow, this is so specific. And I feel this. I wish it was 2005 Pride and Prejudice, but I'm not going to complain because this is so spot on. And I don't know about y'all, but I really found the jokes about The Godfather and the Snyder cut of Justice League to be so funny. My theater laughed both times during that, so I felt very like, yes, okay, this is good. And obviously the ending, what a mic drop moment of, I'm here to see a gynecologist. What a way to end the movie. It's so perfect. It's so bold. I can't believe they got away with so much in this movie. I adore Barbie. Honestly, I'm going to shut up now because I literally could go every single scene and talk about why it's brilliant, why it's funny, what it did to me. But like, oh my gosh, this movie, I'm just in awe of what Greta Gerwig was able to just create before our eyes and just tell this story so uniquely her. I have no words. Or all the words, I guess, but I'm going to stop now.
There can never be enough words. Before I throw it over to Tyler, I just want to say all 3 times that I've seen the movie, yes, I've seen the movie 3 times now. The second 2 were in Dolby, but all 3 times I saw the movie, the jokes that got the biggest laugh were obviously the one at the end, but the Depression Barbie commercial was one of them.
Yes.
And then the jokes about the Godfather and Zack Snyder's Justice League. And then the other one is for those who don't know, Helen Mirren voices the narrator throughout the film. She comes in at just like random times during the film, but one joke that absolutely like slayed was a fourth wall break where she says, "Note to the filmmakers: Margot Robbie was probably the wrong actress to make this point." And
it was so funny. My theater died over that too. I was dying over that.
I think that might be one of the funniest fourth wall breaks that I've seen since probably the first Deadpool.
It's like it's funnier when you know the history of this movie.
Oh, definitely. So Tyler, what are some other moments that stood out to you?
Is it wrong if I just want to just gush about that the ending monologue because it's like the best thing I've seen ever? That the American Forever a bit about exactly what it is to be a woman, because oh boy, I know that was relatable to a lot of people. Boy, was that relatable to me, because it is kind of a contradictional mess when you get down to it. And that's okay. I kind of like a film that's going, look, this is complicated. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. That's just how it is. Terribly relatable. Also, I agree with I kind of cried over that bit. But obviously, beside the ending bit, I just loved all the amount of actors they managed to just shove in here as this type of Barbie. It's like, I'm a really big fan of a show called Dairy Girls, which Nicole Coughlan, who was the diplomat Barbie, is in. It was great seeing her in this for a couple scenes. You had it. Have you mentioned Dua Lipa showing up as a Barbie?
Yes.
Incredible. And John Cena.
That was
hilarious.
And
John Cena, oh my God, John Cena as the Ken maid, which is a great pun even in that itself. Oh my God. So many people hang from mentioned Isaiah Ray. She was really good as the president Barbie. I love that. That was a good little choice in casting. Like you mentioned Alan. Michael Cera was so fun and likable in that role. Like, this is probably the best he's been in years, actually. To the point where, I'm not gonna lie, when I came out of the theater, I kind of just Googled, "Can I get an Alan?" And the answer is, no, you can't. No, really. Like, apparently, I don't think Mattel thought that like anyone would care about Allens. That no one's been able to buy an Allen for years. Mattel, fix that, please.
They should probably consider resurrecting it for the sake of promotional purposes and see, at the very least. I mean, of course, the movie's out now, but probably beforehand or at some point, if they didn't conduct a survey from that point, I think that's a big missed opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. It's like I don't know who's running your marketing department, but you might want to get another Allen. Just saying. But Margot Robbie in general manages to kind of skirt the line perfectly between genuinely existential stuff. Like, obviously, everyone loves that scene where she goes, "Has anyone thought about dying?" That was great. But also just the comedy, the physical comedy of it all. She nailed that one. She also had the best fashion I think I've seen of any film in all the whole year. If this movie doesn't get an Oscar nomination for like best costume design, I'm gonna riot.
If this doesn't win the Oscar, I will riot.
That also too. It's like, sorry to every other good movie I've seen this year that had costumes, but I think you might want to just give up on that award. This is the clincher. Like, I think it was during production, they said that they used so much pink, they straight up caused a pink paint shortage in like California. I believe it.
Yeah, that adds up.
Yeah, like they use so much pink, so much pink. Like, Lord. But it's great. It's absolutely great. And also, mentioned the narrator. Did anyone see the first trailer for this film? Because it's absolutely brilliant.
Yep.
Yes.
I remember that trailer.
The
I remember where I
2001
was
trailer.
sitting. Yes.
That was the immediate sign. Oh, this movie's going to be a lot better than anyone has any right to think. Because you think Barbie, you're like, okay, it's going to be a sellout. It's going to be a product placement. And it's aware of it. It is, but also it's aware of it to a degree where you kind of really just kind of don't care. But that trailer just kind of showed, okay, Greta Gerwig's going to be very creative, very subversive, very entertaining, and she did exactly what I'd expect from someone who did Lady Bird and a version of Little Women.
Indeed.
Yeah, but overall, I think it was a very entertaining movie that is both in a way, it's not a movie where you can turn off your brain and have fun, but also keep your brain on and also get definitely some layers to it, which I think is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it definitely has layers to it, and I'll go a little bit more in depth in a second. But Tommy, I want to get your thoughts more on like favorite moments or just performances that stood out to you.
Oh, absolutely. The thing about Barbie, and I'll just piggyback off of that for a second. When I was going in to see my screening in Dolby, there was a attendant at the AMC that I saw it at. Wonderful attendant. His name was Josh, and he was talking about how much he enjoyed the movie. And then I go to see it, and I come out and I walk, and we talked about that experience, and piggybacking off of what Tyler said about Greta Gerwig and the impact that she has made now in that sense of story and that sense of storytelling. Just that moment is going to come where, now that she's created this movie and the impact that it's made, that moment is going to come hopefully sooner, to where it will be her opus and elevate her to the level of what a Scorsese, a Spielberg, a Christopher Nolan, and more on that front, because she's that talented, and the inspiration that she had in making this film lives with you, knowing that, and you can see it on screen and how much she appreciates the art of cinema.
Yeah, she I've watched a couple interviews of Greta Gerwig. Like two that really stand out are one she did for Letterboxd and for Turner Classic Movies. Yeah. And just hearing her talk about like the stuff that's influenced this movie, like you know that she lives and breathes cinema. And one thing that kind of stands out to me is how deliberately fake Barbie Land looks. Like they got it down to a science. Like everything from the dream houses to, you open up the fridge and all of the food and the milk cartons are fake. The pool is all just plastic.
The sky almost looked like a matinee painting like in the 30s. Yeah,
exactly.
And go again.
And as far as I know, there's like very little, like if at all, like there's like barely any CGI. All of that was like, a couple blue screens here or there, but the portal from Barbie Land to the real world, that was all like practical effects, and it looks fake, but but it's so deliberately artifice that it looks better than so many other movies that were made for like $200+ million.
And the thing that really stood out the most about this movie was the art direction. Sarah Greenwood's production design of Barbie Land will go down as one of the most unique and original settings in the history of cinema. Barbie Land, it's something reminiscent of the first time I felt a feeling that this must have been how viewers felt the first time they saw the Death Star in the original Star Wars movie, or Gotham City in Tim Burton's Batman, or from a recent cinematic standpoint, Minnie's Haberdashery in Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, or Powder Keg's Farm from last year's X and Pearl. You know, it made the viewer feel as if they were a Mattel doll themselves in this world alongside those characters. And I cannot applaud Greenwood's work enough. And if anything, that is, I don't know if, from an award standpoint, I don't know if Barbie will go on to win. Will go on, not to go on to win, just to be nominated for Best Picture. Could it happen? Absolutely. Will it happen? I don't know. But from a technical standpoint, the art direction is just phenomenal, spot on, and will go down as one of those set pieces that will live with you in the back of your mind forever as one of the greatest.
From the Architectural Digest interview alone, Greenwood has that Oscar in the bag. I don't see how she doesn't. Like, everything I just wanted to touch. I just wanted to be in Barbie Land so badly. Once they released that interview, I was like, oh, they're serious about this. Like, they weren't messing around. All of the pink shortage is not going to go in vain. It's going for Oscar Gold. And I mean, it's my front runner. I just don't see anybody really beating that. And I love Asteroid City. I love Wes Anderson. He has excellent production design. It does not stand a chance compared to Barbie Land.
Unless someone comes in and surprises us within the next 4 months, I don't know how. I'm
actually betting on the other film that came out that day for set design. I think that has a solid chance too.
I'll be nominated, absolutely, but I don't know about. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I agree, Meredith Greenwood. In my book, she's got it. It's a lock and likely win, as IndieWire would say. But and even living in that Barbie Land standpoint, being alongside the dolls themselves, it's phenomenal. And you live your life through the vein of the character as if you were alongside. It's just wonderful.
There's another name that we should talk about. Well, there's actually two. There's a scene in the film where Margot Robbie sits on a bench and tells some random old lady that she's beautiful. That is the Academy Award nominated costume designer Anne Roth. And I thought for a second that she was the costume designer for the film, but it's actually Jacqueline Duran. So, but
who is a very talented woman.
Yeah, but both of these names like deserve plenty of recognition.
And it's fantastic because it ultimately leads into the story that Greta Gerwig wanted to tell. And thinking back to Batman for a moment, Tim Burton's Batman, Barbie could have been a story that aimed for a PG rating. And while such an adaptation still could have worked, the reason Barbie is PG-13 is not due to suggestivity, but rather thematic elements as a result of screenplay themes that tell more of a mature-minded story. And while responsible in telling that story, it was a welcomed move that could be seen as allowing the middle school teenage audience to learn in the same mannerisms as Barbie did throughout the movie. It's refreshing and allows one to recognize differentiations between escapism and realism while still keeping them grounded to the experience of the real world.
Yeah, and this is what makes Greta Gerwig such a very unique voice in cinema. That, you know, unless you count that her first film that she co-directed with Joan Swanberg, she's only really made one original movie in Lady Bird. But Little Women was an adaptation, and a damn good one at that. And while this is an original story, it's building off of like years and decades of Mattel's history, the history of Barbie. And honestly, I'm genuinely surprised at how much Mattel let Gerwig just like completely, pay homage to their history, but also kind of eviscerate the brand.
It bit the hand it fed it quite a few times.
Oh, certainly.
That opening scene alone, and
any scene with Will Ferrell.
Well, that too, and
oh yes.
And one can look at that moment, and if anyone knows the Barbie history, they could see how they took that moment. And my first thought upon seeing the dolls being smashed, I'm like, okay, this is a bit over the top. And looking back on it, it was a welcome portion of the story, but it could be seen as the mindset that Ruth Handler had when she watched her daughter Barbara play with the dolls and provided more adult roles for them. And so it was on that trip to Germany where they bought that adult doll, and she showed it, and Ruth showed it to Mattel and evolved it into what became the first Barbie when it made its debut on March 9th, 1959 at the American International Toy Fair in New York City.
Yeah, who knew that this movie would come packed with a history lesson.
Yeah, and also the history lessons correct. It's like, yeah. They did take it from like a German doll post World War II, and Barbara, the name of the daughter, who is not actually on record for saying she hates the fact that the Barbie's named after her.
Really? Well,
yeah.
which is kind of weird in a way, and I'm sorry to mess with somebody's mindset in a way, but Barbie was named after her daughter, and her son's name was Ken, so that's where Barbie and Ken came from. They were actually brother and sister.
Also, Kenneth Handler is a real character.
And when you think back to that moment, and of course Rhea Perlman as that adaptation of Ruth Handler was just, I got to go back to that moment between Rhea Perlman and Margot Robbie, and that differentiation between escapism and realism while still keeping the viewer grounded. It was further evident in that moment it was further evident in that moment in the emotional power that was Billie Eilish's ballad, What Was I Made For? I mean, just that moment alone between Perlman and Robbie was emotionally impactful on its own.
There's two songs that might get an Oscar nomination. That's the other one. I'm probably betting on that one to get it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. As much as I want I'm Just Ken, like Billie Eilish is a repeat winner. And the fact that the music itself was like leitmotif throughout the movie before the song actually played, like that is its theme.
Yeah. And like in that one moment, it's how it speaks to the viewer and telling that story. And it elevated the moment that music began playing and Billie Eilish began to sing. The emotion was elevated to the viewing core. This is almost embarrassing to admit because I almost cried in that moment because the moment was heartbreaking. It reminds the viewer of their own experiences and coming to terms with imperfections, reminiscing on the growth it brings to the viewer and that sense of realism versus perfection and growing and evolving.
That's not embarrassing, by the way.
No, it's totally fine.
You can cry. It is human experience to cry. It's not just women crying over that scene. Men can cry over it too.
That was one of the plus points of the movie, by the way. The fact that everyone likes to say it's a very feminist movie, and it is.
Oh.
But it's also not anti-men. It has a lot of nice things to say about men after some really not nice things to say about men too.
Well, and that's what leading back to the song. That's why it is now officially, at least in my eyes anyway, the leading contender to be nominated for Best Original Song come awards season, because it symbolizes a true meaning of self-sufficiency and confidence. If Barbie can be confident in overcoming her fears and insecurities, we can be more comfortable and confident in overcoming our own. It actually makes me glad that those ignorant are talking about or coining this as feminism woke, something along those lines, because it's that powerful of a sentiment. Being
I
able
don't,
to,
I don't want to
the
spend
Ken
too
villain
much.
arc didn't last as long as it did.
I don't want to spend too much time dwelling on a lot of the garbage that
oh,
has been that has been thrown towards this
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
But
it's just a bunch of
Much like the complaining about like
ignoramuses who
stuff like
never saw
WAP,
the movie.
it was basically almost marketing for the movie in a way. Like, of course they're gonna say this.
yeah, whether they intended it or not, a lot of those like ignorant opinions,
Yeah,
like they kind of fed into the the hype of this movie.
the
And
go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
those who are saying that this is anti-men clearly were not really paying attention to some of the more crucial scenes, like as silly as the choreography can be at times, like I'm just Ken, and like the falling action after that whole sequence is probably one of the most the most like supportive of men that this movie actually becomes. By the end of this movie, I think the biggest lesson that you can take away from it is the real world's not perfect, but its imperfections are what make it a great place, a great place for everyone.
Absolutely. And the even though that dance number alone has that in itself is Oscar telecast material. Seeing Gosling and crew dance to it, you can already imagine them dancing to it on the stage of the Dolby Theater. And one can see it be in the second song alongside What Was I Made For. The adversarial undertones of Ken's character ran on too long. That's the one thing that I will point out as far as a story construction standpoint, Tyler. But it's really it's a powerful sentiment to being able to overcome those insecurities. And yes, it is scary, but we can overcome it, and it's part of a growing experience. And I will also say, this may sound, I would not be surprised if it was said that Stanley Kubrick provided inspiration for that last line, because this may sound a bit interesting from a filmmaking standpoint, but I kept thinking back to how Scorsese and Roger Ebert at the end of the decade of the 90s on what was known at the time Roger Ebert in the movies, how they got a big kick out of the impact of that final line. And I thought of that such a similar impact when watching Barbie, when all of a sudden it was like you're thinking, all right, she's got the confidence, she's wearing the sandals, and then she says that line, and we're like, whoa, that was impactful, and and inspiration at its finest. Anyway,
one last thing, well, two more things I want to bring up before we move on to the other side of the coin. One is just the soundtrack as a whole is amazing. Earlier this afternoon, I went for a walk and just played the soundtrack start to finish. And even if this wasn't attached to a movie, these are still just great songs throughout. Other than Billie Eilish's number, are there any that you guys have taken a liking to? Meredith, I'll start with you.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Speed Drive by Charlie XCX. Let's talk about Barbie Dreams. Let's talk about Dance the Night Away, Dua Lipa, which is continuing her future nostalgia sound, that disco pop sound. It's perfect. Even I love the Haim song Home that is featured as well. This soundtrack is stacked, and honestly, I a little bummed that I didn't pre-order the vinyl, so now I need to go out and find it because I do genuinely love the whole soundtrack.
One of the more underrated tracks from me would be Choose Your Fighter.
Oh yeah.
And then just it's hard to pick just one favorite because they're all really good. Tyler, what about you?
I had to mention the song most associated with Barbie, Barbie Girl, the new remix version.
Oh yeah, I'm still sad, but I understand why. Like they avoided using the Aqua song.
Yeah. Although, hey, I'm glad they used it because originally they said they weren't even gonna have a version of it in the film,
Yeah.
and that just felt wrong. I know Mattel has a somewhat antagonistic relationship with that song.
Just somewhat.
Well, a little bit. It's on the court back in the day.
Just a tad.
Yeah. Although they have actually been using it for some of their products, so I guess hey, they like money too. But
Well,
it was a good remix.
Yeah, they took it and
was.
made it their own, and
Yeah.
made it their own. And at the end credits, seeing the celebration, which is what the film was, a celebration at the end of the day, a celebration of a product that we grew up with.
It's a dance
So
party
more so
ending I
than
can
others.
accept.
What's that?
It's a dance party ending that I can accept.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And then once again, going back to bringing it grounded, the moment we got into the regular end credits, it was a reprice of Billie Eilish and Seal the Deal once more.
Oh yes. Also, I must quickly say to Jacqueline, the costume designer, you did such a good job that I'm gonna actually forgive her for doing the video piece for that project.
And one last thing I wanted to bring up, because I know that Greta's supposedly next two movies are adaptations of the Chronicles of Narnia. So I had to at least throw a bone to the sort of religious subtext of the film, where you could interpret Barbie and Ken as sort of the Adam and Eve of Barbie Land, and how like they're and how they influence Barbie world in their own different ways. Meredith, do you have anything to add on the sort of religious subtext?
Oh, I mean, Greta has said that her stereotypical Barbie scenes with Ruth Handler is very much inspired by the creation of man, where God is touching Adam's hands there, like touching his like creation. So, and in a sense, Barbie and Ken leave Eden to go out beyond the garden, the haven that they know from Barbie Land. So there's a lot that you can pull from Barbie and find religious allegory. And so that's why I'm really excited to see what she does with the Chronicles of Narnia, and especially to have a female director in there. In fantasy, I just don't feel like we have enough female perspectives in that space to adapt something like this. So yeah, there's a lot that she's already kind of done in Barbie Land that I think will serve her well when flipping over to the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said, that we definitely need more female voices in like the high fantasy genre.
This might help, since this is probably on its way to being the highest grossing female directed movie of all time.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Barbillion is happening,
Yeah,
guys.
it really is. It's like
it
800
will-
million, I think, at this point. It will make it by the end of the weekend. It will be a Barbie.
Yeah, by the time this episode is uploaded onto the website, it will have already made like 1.2 billion.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. And I mentioned religious like subtext and that. I picked up on that, but also I feel like there's a pretty strong trans reading of it all, since there's so much talk of identity and femininity, and that's a very central pillar for some people. And also Hari Nef is a Barbie and she's a trans woman, so I saw that as a possible observation. A couple of friends of mine also did too.
And what I love about Hari Nef's casting in this is at no point do they even like draw attention to the there's no huge melodramatic subplot about Hari Nef's Barbie being trans. She's just allowed to exist in this world.
Yeah, they could have done that. Oh, it's trans Barbie, or Nicole Coughlin. Oh, it's plus size Barbie. They could have done that, but they didn't, and I'm glad.
She literally got the rom-com treatment of taking off the glasses and being seen as like pretty or whatever. So
Yep.
The other thing I failed to mention was the relationship between America Ferrera's character Gloria and her daughter Sasha. That's something I've kind of noticed about Greta Gerwig throughout the three films that she's directed by herself. That there is definitely some sort of there's always some sort of themes about motherhood in each of her films, which this was definitely another strong example of that.
Well, yeah. Also in the way, the ending scene with Ruth Handler also being like her mother in a metaphorical way.
That scene was just I'll always talk about that scene.
I see Rhea Perlman in things now because she's not the most prolific actress anymore. I haven't seen her in anything besides one episode of Always Sunny this year, probably because she's married to Danny DeVito, or well, was married to Danny DeVito. But glad to see her in this.
Oh, she'll always be Carla.
Oh yeah, she's always gonna be Carla from Cheers, but she can also be Ruth.
100%. And can I just bring up, and we can post this to another point in the show, but the one thing that I did think about when I thought of Will Ferrell's character is the way the character could be interpreted. Though one could mistake that character as semi-adversarial, it is one designed to be confused. They're a character who act as if they want what's best for the Barbie brand. In their heart and mind, they present a demeanor believing they want what's best for the Barbie brand. They may think they do, though they're going about it all wrong. They do believe in the Barbie character, though they may be open-minded to a fault. They're more protective than subjective in such a sense.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with this. How I think we know a lot of parents who are like that, or I guess other people at the top of big businesses that think they know what's best for others, but are going about it in just either the wrong way or just a way that's completely ill-informed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very pointed that there was a character like Will Ferrell's in Barbie in the midst of all of the strikes that are currently happening in Hollywood, that you can have a CEO at the top who can be very supportive of the brand. And I mean, I think Bob Iger, him at D23, and really giving off this impression of being so for the brand, but missing the mark as far as what it takes to support the brand in the way that it's meant to. And I mean, the Warner Brothers Discovery sign was in the back. This was a very heightened version of LA that I was like, that's very pointed. And the Hollywood sign is not over there. So this is a heightened LA period. But I also think it was very much just in line with his character from the Lego movie, that he is so protective of the Legos that he wants to just glue them in place and have them be perfect. But then in doing so, he misses the point of what Legos are about, about creating. And that's what Barbie is. They're for girls. And just being the son of a mother doesn't always, count, of having that kind of female voice in the room of these executives. Very funny scene. I had a lot of fun with it, but it's hard not to miss that commentary.
Oh, certainly. So any final thoughts before we transition to Oppenheimer?
I am sorry for all the people who are gonna at Mattel that think that they can repeat this, because they greenlit 14 other movies, and I don't know what to tell you, but this movie is not a hit because it's brands, because of who made it, how it was made, what it says. It's not just Barbie.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Tyler. It's
a
celebration of cinema at its finest form.
I mean, Greta Gerwig said she's a big fan of Stanley Kubrick, and there's multiple Kubrick nods from 2001 to The Shining. That. You're not going to see that in Polly Pockets.
The ending, what I was saying earlier about Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut, yeah.
Yep.
Although if they're gonna make a Polly Pockets movie, at the very least, make sure you time it with some sort of serious movie, like a Jonas Salk movie or something. At least try a little bit.
Or place it in a spot where it's not gonna have any competition and everyone will go see that.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's that's what this is. And if you look at Greta Gerwig's comments on the press tour before the strike, that this really is a celebration of the art of cinema. And Gerwig herself said it best, how she took elements of various generations and incorporated it into this story. And it's just being able to feel the power of the theatrical experience in this matter is it's a reminder why the art of cinema is still thriving. And why AMC, for example, it's its most profitable weekend in company history was with Barbenheimer.
Yes, they did. And I'm not suggesting that they make another commercial, but instead of having Nicole Kidman, they should have Margot Robbie and Cillian Murphy. But
Oh, that would have
gosh.
been so good.
Yeah, but like riots would break out. All right, like I go to AMC quite a bit, and I always know I'm gonna have a good experience in there if people are reciting the Nicole Kidman ad and people clap when she shows up.
I've seen people do that. Yeah, hey, they love it.
So I would say, like, I don't want them to replace. I feel like riots would break out if Nicole was gone and it was Barbenheimer, the ad or whatever. No, keep Nicole Kidman.
Well, I mean, I keep Nicole Kidman, but if you wanted to like modernize it in a way, like company signatures, like, or as it was when I was growing up, welcome to Goodrich Quality Theaters. That of course it was a female voice in addition to mine. But anyway, like things like that for the sake of modernization, like keep Nicole Kidman, but like like we were saying, like include Cillian Murphy or include Margot Robbie or whatever.
Why'd you do all three? Like
Nicole that's Kidman what I'm saying.
Like she says next to Margot Robbie and Cillian Murphy.
Like she says, like one says the opening line, the next says the other, and then it opens or closes with Nicole Kidman, and they all say the same row.
Or you could trade out the movies that she is watching, and you can have Oppenheimer and Barbie. That saves everything.
Yeah. Or you could go all the way and just have a giant Barbenheimer statue in like the lobby of every single AMC.
Yes.
I will also say that when I did experience Barbie, I did experience it in Dolby. It's not as a prominent feature as it would be now due to Mutant Mayhem and other releases. But if there is still a small chance, you may have to go early in the morning or late at night. But if you're able to catch Barbie, for those who haven't seen it in the Dolby cinema, take advantage of it. There's a wonderful little, at least it was for mine, going back to Celebration, a wonderful signature for Dolby Cinema that tied in to Barbie. It was wonderful. And
I will say, if you are going to see Barbie, well, maybe not so much now, but like on opening day, make sure you know what film's playing next to Barbie, because it's very possible it might accidentally interlude into your film viewing of Barbie, because that kind of happened to me. Didn't mention this before, but like there was like a nice quiet moment where Ken's talking with the Barbie, and I physically could hear an explosion, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was from Oppenheimer across, and then I saw it, and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely what that was.
I think I heard one of those as well.
Was your theater next to an IMAX or a Dolby? Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yes, it was next door to the IMAX, which, yeah, that's how you mix them two movies, I guess.
Ay.
I did have one more thought, a last thought I wanted to say about Barbie, just to switch from this.
Go for it.
Okay. I think Barbie, the movie as a whole, I think does a great job of being what Barbie has come to mean to society. And what I mean by that is like Barbie, stereotypical Barbie, she gets reprimanded of like the ways that like Barbie has like harmed society and how there is a lot of like contradictions when it comes to Barbie. And I think that the movie does a really good job of like holding both of those things in tension and really well. And that I don't think this movie is ever fully going to be what people want from Barbie, because Barbie has always been what we have put on this doll, essentially. For some people, this is like not feminist enough. For other people, it's too feminist. For some people, it makes fun of Barbie. It doesn't make fun of Barbie enough. It it can hold all of those things together and yet say something about Barbie, about society, about what it means to be a woman, and not have to be the answer to everything, because Barbie was never the answer to everything. She opened the doors in a lot of ways for women, and she also created unrealistic beauty standards for others. Like, she's never going to have it all together. And I think this movie, that is what it got at the most. It is as existential as it is fun, and that is why I love Barbie. And if you have a problem with fun, I don't know what to tell you, because this movie was just so much fun, and there was a lot to celebrate, and there was a lot to cry over. And I can't believe Greta was able to package so much in a less than 2-hour movie. Okay, like, that is a feat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Basically, this movie is a Rorschach test. Everyone is sort of projecting their own ideas as to, you know, what they want from Barbie, like, you know, what she is, what she could be, what she isn't, and the movie really, as you said, does a great job of like kind of like spotlighting everyone's point of view, but at no point does that like detract from just the basic story, like the basic like structure of the narrative. It's still very compelling on its own. It's still just absurdly silly and entertaining. It is honestly the complete package.
Really is.
So now we move on to I'm not even gonna bury the lead. I genuinely think this is Christopher Nolan's best film since Memento, in my opinion.
I just go all best and best you ever done.
Whoa, okay, calm down.
No.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot with this one, but yeah, we're talking about Oppenheimer, and Tyler, I will let you start first, because this is one that I think out of all of us, are you the only one who has read American Prometheus?
Yes, which is like an 11,000 word book, so you better like Oppie. Or not, actually. I'm not even sure the author particularly liked him. But you better like the subject matter, because it's a big read. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I was buried the lead too. This is the best film that Christopher Nolan's ever made. Full stop. I loved a lot of his work. I loved Dunkirk a lot in 2017, but this movie takes it to another level. Never have I seen a biopic that actively grapples with all the implications of a man's life, his contradictions, and even comes away saying, great man theory is not exactly applicable here. He's not remotely a likable person. You can even walk away thinking that the designated villain was completely correct. But you can't say this man wasn't important to history. That's certainly something you're not going to get from your usual biopics like, the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. You ain't going to get an opinion like that.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those movies that, how should I put this? Like, regardless of how you feel about this, like the subject, like whether you think he was like a good person, a not good person, he is the most important man in the history of the world, who was responsible for one of the biggest events of the world, the one like the thing that kind of, well, not kind of, it was the thing that ended World War II.
Or maybe not. The movie gets into that too, the implications of all of that.
Oh, yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. But Meredith, I want to throw it over to you. Your general thoughts on Oppenheimer?
Yeah, this is an incredible film, and easily, I think, one of Christopher Nolan's best. I will say, since Inception, I enjoy that film, and The Dark Knight. I think that's some of his best work. And I do think that Oppenheimer belongs in the conversation of Christopher Nolan's masterpieces that he has made. I knew that him doing a biopic was going to be something special, and for him to do Robert Oppenheimer's life, I was very impressed by the way that he approached it. So much craft is on display, so many just phenomenal performances, the score, the tension, the pacing, pretty much everything about this film like is really remarkable. And I know we'll get into more details as we continue this conversation, but I do think that this is it's such a feat of filmmaking on display, and I'm just in awe of what Christopher Nolan and his entire team was able to bring to the screen like that.
Oh, certainly. This is just an incredible feat of filmmaking in pretty much every aspect. But before I get deeper into my thoughts, Tommy, I'm going to throw it over to you. Your thoughts on Oppenheimer?
Captain, Oppenheimer is piggybacking off of Barbie. This is what the Barbenheimer experience was all about. The experience of cinema. It took me back. This whole story of Oppenheimer took me back to one of the things I enjoyed the most about going to the movies as an adolescent. Sometimes when walking down the hallway to attend my screening, there would be a teaser poster that would catch my eye and intrigue. If I were lucky enough, I would witness an announcement teaser trailer play right before the movie I was about to see, promoting that same poster. When witnessing these announcement teasers at the movie theater, specifically those over a year out from the project's scheduled date of release, the viewer gets an idea that regardless of how the final product turns out, they are destined to be in the midst of something special. This was the case last summer, just before the lights fully dimmed for Nope. In the vein of a countdown, the world got its first glimpse of a biopic centered around the scientists whom Kay Bird and Martin J. Sherwin dubbed the American Prometheus. And now that Oppenheimer has been released in all of its respective formats, it serves as the epitome of a historic cinematic epic in the vein of a biopic, a celebration of the cinematic craft. From its sound, the choice to film on film, combined with different color selections for the sake of orientation and character development, pristine. It's an experience unlike anything we have seen at the movies in 2023. There's a reason why Christopher Nolan can be seen as rightfully placed alongside Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg on a Mount Rushmore of best directors of a generation. And it can now be seen as the leading contender for award season. This is the movie. You heard it here. Oppenheimer is now the leading contender for award season, specifically in the following categories: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Cillian Murphy, Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey Jr., Best Adapted Screenplay from Christopher Nolan, based off the biographical novel American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer by Kay Bird and Martin J. Sherwin, Best Original Score, Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, Best Costume Design. And piggybacking off of Barbie for a moment, if these two films were the pure epitome of what an award for outstanding direction and casting is all about, the only reason in my eyes that Oppenheimer did not receive a perfect score is, one, due to noticeable usage of sound editing that looks, even though Nolan insists that it's not audio dialogue replacement, there are moments when a character is speaking and their mouths aren't moving. This happened in about 4 different shots. The second is the result of an editing showcase in a scene that sees a character undoing their bow tie in one shot before a cut to another character, then back to said character where their bow tie is made in full, before a cut to another character, and then back to said character where their bow tie is down once more. That said, seek Oppenheimer out in IMAX for the full experience. If you are fortunate within reasonable distance, well, it's worth a several-hour drive if you are able to do so. Seek out the IMAX 70mm experience of Oppenheimer, where you will be able to witness the movie as Christopher Nolan envisioned his final product to be seen.
I wish I was able to see this movie in the whole IMAX 70mm before pretty much all 30 screens selling out, and B, I don't unfortunately live nowhere close to one of these screenings, so I settled for Dolby. But honestly, like any PLF screen that you see this on is going to be worth it, because the movie is just worth it. It's worth the price of admission to see a 3-hour biopic that wastes not a second of time. Every single scene, every single scene is, for the most part, like essential to telling a pretty complicated story about a complicated man during a very crucial time in history. And the reason why I'm comparing this to Memento is because both have a similar structure in how they tell their story, where you have the subjective scenes from Oppenheimer's point of view, all in color, while in black and white we have the more objective scenes told from the perspective of Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Louis Strauss, who we find out his motivations for why he's, I guess, on trial for the events that happen after the Trinity test and after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We don't really find out exactly what he's doing until like the third act of the film, but getting there is still a riveting experience. So let's get into the specifics here. Meredith, I'll start with you. What are some scenes, or even character actors who stood out to you the most?
Well, I mean, to kick things off, I adore Cillian Murphy, so to see him in a leading role like this was not only just like a due reward for all of his like hard work that he's done and just his collaboration over the years with Christopher Nolan to finally be front and center. It was just so rewarding and satisfying to see, but also see him like really rise to the occasion in such a role. I mean, you talk about this cast, it's like in the same way that we had talked about Barbie and trying to pick out all of the people in there, there are so many people in Oppenheimer that I know I'm going to miss some of my favorites. But I mean, first things first, I am Team Iron Man or die. I love Robert Downey Jr. So to see him in this type of role as Louis Strauss was just so affirming and satisfying, just to remind audiences, like, yes, he is a great actor. He didn't just like kick off the MCU, but like he's also really talented, and he is my front runner for Best Supporting Actor. I love you, Ryan Gosling, and I'm still pulling for that Barbenheimer race, but I really do think like Robert Downey Jr. is like something special here. But you talk about him, you also have to talk about Matt Damon. You also have to talk about David Krumholtz. You also have to talk about Jason Clarke. You even have to talk about the fact that Gary Oldman shows up for one scene as Harry Truman, and he has now played Truman and Churchill. All he needs to do now is play Stalin, and you've got the trifecta there of important allied leaders. And he looked great.
He wanted to do a Potsdam movie after he did the Churchill movie, so it's like, yeah, can we just do like some Doctor Strangelove? He plays everyone.
Yes, let's let it happen. Why not at this point? And then let's talk about Rami Malek showing up for just a few scenes, but when he, for a moment, I was like, why is he in this movie? What is he doing just in the background? And then he gets his moment in the third act, and you're like, oh, that's why he's in this movie, and it's so good.
Everyone gets at least one major scene.
That's all he needs.
Also, Alden Ehrenreich is probably giving
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of him, especially to see him and his scenes with Robert Downey Jr. He is so good, and you watch his evolution as his relationship with Strauss change over the course of this cabinet proceeding and stuff. It's so good. Also, Jack Quaid is playing bongo drums in a Christmas sweater, and it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And I'm like,
I had to explain that that's actually 100% true to life.
Yes!
Richard Federman was obsessed with bongos, to the point where his own family said about the movie, we're really happy that they captured Richard's most favorite thing to do in the world, which was bongos.
Yes, I was so delighted by that once I looked up and found like that was true to his to the scientist that he was playing. Also, Josh Peck, so good to see him.
Detonator's charged.
Detonator's charge, man. He was so good. I'm so proud of like all of the people involved. And that's just a sampling right there. Also, Kenneth Branagh as Niels Bohr, as somebody who studied a lot of science and Bohr, I was like, this is blowing my mind right now watching you.
It's a better Belgian accent than he does with Hercule Poirot.
That's right.
And let's not
And
forget. Yeah, go ahead, Meredith. I'm sorry.
I was going to say the last person I want to highlight really quickly is Emily Blunt. At first, I was really concerned with Emily Blunt in the role. Unfortunately, Christopher Nolan doesn't have the best track record with writing women, and especially in this movie, with what he does with G. Tatler and Florence Pugh, which I love Florence Pugh, and she definitely gave as much as she could. Same with Emily Blunt. But one of my favorite scenes in the film was when Emily Blunt was being questioned by Jason Clarke, and she snaps and she just spars back and forth with him. And I'm like, this is so good, because we have seen Oppenheimer not fight back throughout the film and his life. He is so slow to share his opinion. He's so slow to like stand up and fight for something. I think a lot about, like, I'm so sorry to bring this up, but in Hamilton, you've got Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr.
I knew someone's going to bring this up.
Oh my gosh, perfect. So their ideologies are so like different of like how they approach like sharing their opinion. Like, do you wait for it, or do you like make enemies along the way and say what you believe in? And Oppenheimer is very much Aaron Burr. His wife is not. And to see her like fight back was just so cool in that
She
scene.
also gets maybe the best line in the movie, well, one of the best, when she kind of chastises him in the forest and says, oh, you don't get to do sin and then feel bad for yourself.
Yes. Like those two scenes were like, okay, I love that Emily Blunt is here and she is really nailing this in his story right now. I wish there were like better ways. I wish I got more from the Jean side of things with Florence Pugh, but those two scenes really saved it for me as far as Emily Blunt in the role. And I have to shout her out because she was excellent.
I'd say the film was fair when it came to depicting Kitty Oppenheimer, because if you read the book, she does not come across like a particularly great functioning person either. They were completely on point with her alcoholism and not really being a good mother. And also, they also did a subtle gag about the fact that her botany skills weren't very good because she followed a pseudo-scientific Soviet scientist who kind of sort of was the father of the Holodomor. So the movie's kind of fair to her, all things considered.
Interesting. Tyler, I am kind of curious. How is Jean Tatlock portrayed in the book? Is she as prominent in the book as she is in the film, or more so?
Well, she's more prominent in the book because they have more time, but I wouldn't say a ton more. She was a prominent intellectual for subgroup, I guess you could say, but the relationship that she had with Oppenheimer was rather tense, and well, it ended about the same way they depicted in the film, which is he broke it off, and because she had a lot of baggage, it dragged her down, unfortunately. So I think the depiction's somewhat fair, because I don't think Oppenheimer ever actually saw her as an intellectual. She herself saw her as one, but he, and then they make a point of this in the film, is the kind of guy that would look at you and go, oh, you're not even close to my level, well, I'm not going to consider you anything. And that's how he treated her.
Yeah, and that's pretty cold, but I will say, like you can tell that this movie had to be rated R because of her scenes.
Yes. Which, by the way, there's a amusing little gag in those scenes, which only makes sense if you actually not even just read the book, actually understand translation, because the famous line from the Bhagavad Gita, I have become death to destroy your world, well, that's actually not a correct translation. It's kind of closer to I have become time, a decayer of life, something like that. It's not a direct translation. And Oppenheimer probably knew that because he actually was a really good Sanskrit reader. But in the scene, they're making it that he's learning it, so it comes off like it's a translation error if you know the language. That's kind of clever.
Yeah, that is a pretty clever, playing around with the language.
Yes, and also he never did actually say that until 1965. So the fact that he just thinks it in the scene is also true to life.
there's so much in this
supporting
movie.
cast. It's like honestly, when you say okay, Robert Downey Jr. is Louis Strauss, he's my front runner too for best supporting actor. But there's about 4 or 5 people you could genuinely make an argument for, from Matt Damon as Lieutenant General, what was Leslie Groves, all the way to I really like Tom Conti as Albert Einstein. He only gets like 3 scenes, but he's so
get
good.
To that.
He's so perfect.
Yeah, and then like even just
Josh
cameos like
Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett. I've never been a Josh Hartnett fan. This is probably the most I've ever enjoyed of him. There's a scene with Dane DeHaan. I didn't even realize it was Dane DeHaan until after I saw the credits. But oh my god, that was Dane DeHaan.
Going back to casting direction, I mean, all these recognizable performers. I mean, it's almost as if they said there's a new Christopher Nolan movie coming out, and they said like anytime, any place, anywhere, any pay that they would be in.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened with Matt Damon. He was in couples therapy, and he and his wife were saying, like, I will be on break for a bit unless Christopher Nolan calls me, and then I gotta go. And that's literally what happened with Oppenheimer.
You even got like one of the biggest German actors, Matthias Schrödinger, to show up as Werner Heisenberg for 1 scene. It's like so many wonderful actors for 1 scene. Like Benny Safdie shows up in here a couple times, the co-director of everyone's favorite Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah, Safdie plays what was his name? Like Eddie
Tellers.
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 Yeah, which, by the way, some people thought this guy's being way too cartoonish. Look up the way this man talked. There are interviews of him from the 60s, Edmund Teller. He straight up sounds like, Bela Lugosi with thick glasses, and he always gets really animated and, like, gets in people's faces in interviews. Like, he really was genuinely this mad scientist character, to the point where I think some people think he might have been one of the inspirations for Dr. Strangelove himself because of his bizarre accent.
I believe it.
Yes, I believe so. So he's actually on point because he really was just a very goofy man.
David Krumhol's another good one.
Yeah,
Good.
like the guy from Drake and Josh shows up for a couple scenes.
Yeah, we were just talking. We were talking, and we were talking about Josh Peck. And the moment David Krumholtz shows up, I barely recognized him. But once the light showed on him, I was just like, Bernard.
Yep.
He will always
I'm making the game sphere for the world.
Yep. Oh man, but then
so many
and then going back to of course Robert Downey Jr., who, I mean, off the top of one's head, this is podium best career performance material next to Tony Stark and Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah,
I think that, like, you can see as you're watching him give that impassioned monologue, that impassioned monologue to Dane's character, and how he talks about how it should have been him. You're thinking, yep, that's the clip that's going to circulate across the show's awards season. When the
best thing about him is they depict him as terribly petty, which he was. He was a guy who would hold a grudge for you in college. If you said something mean about him, he would hold it against you for like 30 freaking years.
Yep.
But everything he says about Oppenheimer isn't wrong. Like the big bit when he's ranting to Alden Ehrenreich, saying like he didn't apologize for creating the bomb. He's just naive enough to think he could contain the bomb. That is 100% accurate. To the very day that Oppenheimer died, he was always adamant he didn't feel bad about making it. There was a play in 1965, I believe, that was about Oppenheimer, and he's depicted as, I killed all these people. And he actually sent a letter saying, I detest this depiction. I never felt sorry about what I've done. So Strauss is completely correct. This man does not care that he helped liquefy 200,000 people.
So, regarding that, I have a bit of a soapbox to jump on. Just because a character is the protagonist, that doesn't necessarily mean they are the hero. The protagonist is
definitely.
The protagonist is simply the main perspective of a narrative. And Christopher Nolan has emphasized a couple times that he wrote this script in the first person. So
I've seen pages of it. That's genuinely a fascinating way of writing it.
Yeah, and I've seen the movie twice now, both in Dolby, and like it just becomes more obvious, like, once you take in some of the other aspects of this film into consideration, like the fact that all the color scenes are from Oppenheimer's point of view, while the black and white scenes are the objective point of view.
Well, they mean objective because all the lines that happened during the Senate hearing is actually word for word according to the Senate transcripts, which were actually not found for the book. That was actually, I believe, I want to say Christopher Nolan actually had a hand in that. Like those were like mislabeled in the National Archives, the transcript, but they were found and they're word for word exactly as you say in the film.
That's incredible.
Yeah, the attention to detail I think is really impressive here. And not just in like, you know, the dialogue, the performances, but some of the other technical aspects, like the cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema, and the fact that there's hardly any, well, if any at all, digital effects. Everything was shot in camera, which I always find that like mad impressive.
They had to construct a new camera strictly for black and white for this film.
Yeah, they filmed on Los Alamos. They filmed at one of the houses that Robert Oppenheimer actually owned.
That's right.
They filmed at his place in Berkeley. They filmed in as many real places as they possibly could. They did not drop a real bomb though, although I'm sure no one thought about it.
Well, there was no computer generated imagery, so no one says. It's just incredible. The only thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've actually read a few times how they depicted that, and it almost doesn't even compute. Like, so you used like oil, gasoline, several camera angles at a sharp. It almost sounds like it sounds almost too easy. Then you look at the film and go, "Wow, all that, which is this?" It's. Oof.
Am I the only person that took issue with? I mean, because the sound editing is, you know, when you feel the impact, you felt that sound move through you as you were sitting in your seat. At least I did.
Yes, I felt it almost knocked me back.
And, you know, feeling that the achievement in that by itself is spectacular. But if what Christopher Nolan said is true on how there's no ADR whatsoever, when thinking back on those moments when characters talking and their mouth isn't moving, am I the only one that thinks that, I mean, could it be overlooked if you were an Academy voter and think,
yes,
or any awards telecast?
Like,
they do that all the time. What are you talking about?
No,
Why
no,
did Bohemian Rhapsody win Best Editing? That
that was a completely different type of type of scenario from an editing standpoint. Like nobody said anything when they did that double take in the cafe or restaurant, whatever it was.
Yeah, so I mean, the Academy looks over quite a lot when they award stuff out.
Yeah.
That was my point.
The editing Thomas Schoenecker does for editing, which is not very much not like scene canon, for lack of a better word. If you watch a lot of Martin Scorsese films, you can always see like things kind of move around in the background if you're paying attention, but that's very much her style. And I think the editor is similar in that way, where scene continuity is less important than like what the characters are actually doing.
Right. And don't get me wrong. There are moments where there are moments where you could blink and miss it, or where it'll barely be noticeable until like multiple viewings down the line. But when it's your first viewing of that magnitude and you're so invested that it's front and center to where you can't miss it, that's the thing I think that I think about from that standpoint of I don't want to say a perfection element, but I just think about moments like that if indeed it was true.
I don't think the film is full of things you would probably not include in your movie because everyone go like, that's ridiculous, that didn't happen, and then go, oh, actually that did happen. Like the whole bit with Oppenheimer trying to poison his like professor with an apple, that actually happened. He was almost suspended for that. That seems like a complete non sequitur nonsense, but that actually happened. Same with Richard Fetterman, like just getting in a car and not putting on the goggles. You'd be like, well, that's stupid. Why would you do that? He actually did.
I love that scene where he's injecting the apple with potassium cyanide. Just kind of the first like hint that this is not exactly a not exactly a man with high morals.
Yeah, and then later he said, actually, I love my professor, but I still did it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sound, that was brought up, like, we can't talk about this movie without talking about Ludwig Göransson's score.
That's
my goodness. God. Like, Hans Zimmer must be, like, in a fetal position, because when I think of Christopher Nolan, I usually think of Hans Zimmer, but now that is thrown out the window because this score is everything, and it helps like drive up the tension so much, especially leading into the Trinity test.
Mhm.
And it even just helped like move this movie along. Like I feel like the music kept the tension high and kept the pace moving, so that like to me those 3 hours went by really fast. There was very little lull space, mainly because of the power of that score. Like I keep listening to it and I'm in awe of it. It's spectacular.
What's your favorite track?
Oh gosh. Sorry, I gotta pull up my Spotify real quick. You can edit out this. Los Alamos, I listen to quite a bit.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I really love that one. And obviously Trinity.
Trinity's my pick for best.
Oh, we lost
Uh-oh.
Taylor. Oh, well, I'll go ahead and piggyback off of that. I'll just say that sound. I don't know if it was part of the score. Oh, Taylor's back. I don't know if it was part of the sound or whatever it was, but when that sound with the stomping of the feet post.
That scene.
Oh
and
man.
that,
I love
that sound was in the announcement teaser I was alluding to earlier.
Yeah, it was.
And it carried on throughout the entire campaign. And when we finally got to that moment, I almost swore. It just really, the impact in that moment, and then the silence, like seeing Cillian Murphy, and then see his thought process and the background moving by itself, and then of course cutting back to seeing the people from that as if they were the victims of the bomb drop.
Those are two of the best scenes in like Christopher Nolan's career, and they're back to back. The testing of Hiroshima and the celebration scene, I guess I'm just gonna just politely call it.
Yeah.
It's
like the whole movie, like when it keeps cutting back to like the interviews, well, it's more like interrogations.
Yeah.
You keep hearing that ominous like thumping, like what is that? And then eventually you find out, oh, it's everyone cheering for the death of thousands.
I want to go back to the Trinity test, because
yes,
this is
Oh
one
my
of the
gosh.
this is one of the reasons why I would recommend, if it's still available, to see it in Dolby. First of all, before that, when they're doing like the smaller tests, I love the delay between like the explosion and the actual sonic boom it creates. And when you actually get to like the night of the test, I think that is just one of the most jaw-dropping experiences I've seen in a Nolan movie since probably Interstellar.
What I love is they keep cranking up the explosions to give you an idea of, oh, you better get ready, because they do a test explosion and it's pretty big. And then at one point, Oppenheimer's talking about the history of large explosions in history. And he mentions, and this made me freaking do the Leo pointing meme. He mentioned what was called the, oh, boring, I'm blank on the name. It was an incident in 1917 where like two munition ships ran into each other in a Canadian harbor, and they both went off at the exact same time. It killed like 2,000 people. That was considered the largest non-nuclear explosion at that point. And that explosion like almost knocked me back real quick. Like that's almost like a wake me up, like the cockatoo in Citizen Kane. It's like, if you're asleep, don't worry, that'll wake you up before the big one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but then of course when you get to the main scene, you're like, okay, you're doing the big slow countdown. The storm has risen out, which that's another true detail. True to a Hollywood story, there was a massive storm that almost knocked down the atomic bomb the night before the test. Sometimes you can't even make up fiction to make a story better.
And that one moment when it's silence, and he takes off his goggles for a little bit, and then all of a sudden the sound. Oh man, I mean, I didn't experience it in Dolby, Mike, but just hearing it that in IMAX, and you feel that rumble. It's just incredible.
That was among the loudest things I've ever actually heard in a film. Like, it's coming. Like, a solid 15 to 20 seconds of just silence. It's something that made me think about. The whole movie is just beautiful self-destruction. Like, we're all gonna kill ourselves, but look at the great beauty before you go. And then everything just kicks in and just.
And not only that, but the percentage chance of ending the world. When Matt Damon asked that question, like, there's a good chance we could destroy the world.
I love that exchange where where Oppie's like, chances are near zero.
Which
Damon's
is true,
like,
by the way.
Near,
Like,
near
Yeah.
zero?
I prefer them at zero. Well, the thing is, in quantum science, nothing is apparently ever at zero. The lowest you can ever go is like, oh, it's like a 0.111 chance.
That's right.
Like, if you're a scientist, you'd be like, okay, we're fine. But anyone else would be like, so there's a slight chance?
Yeah.
That's something else I liked about this movie. Like outside of like the politics of it all, just the fact that this movie celebrates science, and while
But also condemns in equal measure.
yeah, kind of like Barbie, where like it's both a celebration of and a condemnation of science.
Yes.
We can come together and build anything, but also what we build sometimes goes well beyond what we're thinking.
Exactly. This is why these two movies were actually better paired than anyone really gave them credit for, because they both deal with the ramifications of something created into the world and having massive impact on our world and society moving forward. Like, it's unfair, like how well they are different, but yet they interlock and overlap in very poignant ways.
I also love, like, the way they also, most filmmakers would, after showing what the bomb does to, like, just, the desert, most people would have then showed, well, we're going to drop the bomb now. But no, the actual climactic scene of Hiroshima is just him getting up in the morning and just going, have they done it yet? Have they done it yet?
And that's
like a battalion child almost.
And thankfully, that's the type of moment that's best left to the viewer's imagination. And
well, they leave you somewhat of a hint.
Oh no, I know, I know, but in that one moment specifically. But
Yeah.
When you think back to those respective endings and the emotion behind each, and from a grounded, uplifting moment ending with a bit of a laugh in Barbie to that deep, thought-provoking ending in Oppenheimer.
God, what an ending!
What an ending! And
that's another one. Like, the ending line is just perfect.
Yep.
It kept going back to that scene with Albert Einstein. Strauss being the petty monster he is, going like, he said something that made me hate him. But they didn't even acknowledge your existence. They were just talking about the past.
They were more.
They were talking about something more important. Oh, I loved that line.
Which that scene explains everything about Oppenheimer, because this is a great thing about this film, because this is obviously that subjectivity, like the color stuff. But you don't know if like a scene ever actually happened with Oppenheimer talking about. Well, they've had talk Albert Einstein. But we don't know they talk about like something like this. But the movie is basically saying in that scene, Albert Einstein tells him, no matter what you do, the world will hate you for what you've done, and you can either live with that or suffer with that. And he chooses to suffer for it. Every scene after that, he just takes body blow after body blow and just kind of sits there and takes it, like he's almost trying to be Christ, suffering for everyone's sins. But that's still a very selfish thing to do.
Yep.
And then there was a realization, in a way, I think we did blow up the world because we've created something that can never actually be undone. And maybe not in this lifetime, maybe not in the next. That
reaction from Albert Einstein. I mean, that trademark shot, and then of course that zoom in of a pondering look.
Yeah, well, it rains while the camera focuses almost like it's like acid rain from a nuclear apocalypse.
Exactly. Holy moly.
Yeah. And also it cuts back to the story of that officer telling him, I was in a bomber and I saw one of those V-2 rockets going by. It was almost a beautiful thing before you remember that there will be people that will be killed by it. It's like, yeah, it is a beauty seeing all the rockets go across the sky before they destroy the world.
Yeah, shout out David DeMalchian in that scene, and also being in the film as well. Another great supporting actor.
Also, Casey Affleck have one scene,
and he's chilling.
He's the creepiest person in the whole movie.
Yeah, he definitely ramped up the creep factor.
As a Russian-born American intelligence officer who also fought in the Civil War in the 1910s and was probably the most adamant anti-communist person in the entire military, which really says a lot in the 50s when you have McCarthy and everything. That guy also lived till 1995. He actually lived to see the Soviet Union collapse, and also he just never smiles in any picture. They actually capture perfectly is that sort of dead-eyed sharp glare of just he sees everything as possibly an enemy.
So that's something I kind of want to get into, that as much this movie is about the creation of the atom bomb, pretty much the last hour is all about the aftermath, and specifically all Oppie's past kind of like catching up to him, between the well, it's not a trial. The interrogation scenes with pretty much a totally not biased board.
Jason
And
Clarke, who I thought was Calm Meaney for half the movie.
Jason Clarke is he is fantastic in this, and
Played a Terminator. He literally was one in this.
Yeah, he's a bulldog just ripping at like meat.
Yes. I think he was honestly more intimidating here than he was in Terminator Genesis.
Bar none. And the thing about characterizations like this could have been shoved down the throat of the viewer, like hammering home on what this type of character is all about. And though it came close to that moment, it still remained realistic on the front in the presentation and delivery. So props to Jason for not going overboard in that persona.
Agreed.
Yeah. All those interrogation scenes are pretty. Although the bit with Oppenheimer is pretty great too. He's yelling at him about, do you care about the people you killed? And the thud comes back, and the whole screen lights up, and he's panicking, and the other guy's just screaming in his face. It's terribly intense.
And then, of course, the Rami Malek, like it's literally, it's like the almost equivalent to a bomb dropping moment when he decides to go, when he turns the tide in that scene. That was the one moment that turned the tide for Downey Jr.'s character.
That was basically his mic drop moment.
Exactly.
And again,
like, not a mic drop, a bomb drop.
That feels like a screenplay moment,
bomb drop.
But it happened. That's exactly, he was like, I'm not going to support Mr. Strauss because I think he did XYZ. That word for word that happened seems like a screenplay moment.
Oh yes, that delivered. I mean, so many wonderful moments, and that was.
But again, also he's the villain, but he's not wrong. Like that scene, they're talking about the H bomb, and Oppie's like, it can't be done. It's like, oh yes, it can be. It's like, no, it can't be done. And then actually, the Russians are probably going to be able to do it within a year. And he goes, no, they can't. Well, historically, the Russians only a year after the Americans built the H bomb, detonated there. So in that entire scene, the Russians already know everything. They're building it, so you have to at this point because they started an arms race, which. That also scene too where they introduce, you hired the spy that kind of stole this for the Russians. Like that is true. Klaus Fuchs was the chief spy for the Soviet Union that managed to get the nuclear secrets, and he was hired by Oppenheimer because he thought he was an intelligent person. And that person was also in leagues with the Rosenbergs, which would eventually lead to a high peak in the 1950s of anti-communist activity. You could say that's Oppenheimer's fault too.
See, this is what I'm talking about when I say Oppenheimer is the most important man in the history of the world. And
also, and this is not mentioned in the movie, but like Strauss actually made a lot of public inquiries to President Roosevelt, trying to actually get him to do more to help Jewish people in Nazi Germany in the 30s, and was actually one of the leading voices to say we should drop leaflets on Hiroshima and detonate it in the Bay before we drop it on the city. So he was, in his own way, a moral person.
I thought that was a good piece of foreshadowing, talking about how about thinking ahead about Russia and everybody having the information. It almost became like fast forwarding down the line to the race to get to the moon. And when it was said, well, who voted against me? Some senator from Massachusetts named Kennedy. And then thinking back years later in the space race, said it's almost like an idea of we did this once before. We're not gonna do it again, albeit a completely different set of circumstances.
Man, that Kennedy name drop was also excellent. Like,
yes,
factual for sure, but it was one of those like, Kennedy.
What a moment.
Such a great moment.
It does kind of come across a little bit as like how in Batman Begins when we see the Joker card as a tease for what's to come.
Exactly.
Oh man, what a great tease. Though, okay, I will say I made the joke after Oppenheimer came out. I was kind of waiting for a post-credit scene of Albert Einstein being like, I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative, because having so many scientists in one movie like that, it really felt like, okay, I'm putting together a team. And Albert Einstein could easily be a placeholder for Nick Fury. All jokes aside, it was excellent, but I did have the thought.
Maybe it made me miss my science classes growing up. You learn so much, and even though it was from my point of view the biggest challenge for me from from those early years, it was still, so appreciative, and in a way, it makes you wish you put forth the initiative and learn more on that front.
Yeah, kind of hard to disagree there. I enjoyed a couple of my science classes as
I
well.
enjoyed it too, although I always had to kind of remember. I remember as a kid having to put together like a timeline of important scientists, and one professor was like, "How could you forget Niels Bohr? You remembered Louis Pasteur, but not Niels Bohr." 2 points off.
Well, as somebody who was a bio major up until her final week of college, I did a lot of science classes of biology, psychology, chemistry, and organic chemistry. I do and don't miss those days.
Understandable. Although I was in this movie at times does feel like kind of a bit of a Wikipedia movie where it's just like, wait, so who was this person? It's like, what? Who? Like, who is the Secretary of War, Henry Stinson? I don't know who that is. I'm not complaining, but I'm like, I would have kind of preferred if it's a couple movies that are historically based with a character and have like just small text in the bottom. Yeah, Captain this of this unit who did this, like just a quick mention of who that is, like a little nice,
Yeah,
I don't think they even they don't name Richard Fetterman. You just have to know because of the bongos who that is.
Yeah, that is kind of like the one downside to having a cast like this big, is that there are so many characters in this movie that it can be a little bit hard to keep track of them all. But I do love the scene where the Secretary of War is like,
that's one of my favorite scenes.
That's a good scene.
And I think we just learned today that James Remar
improvised the line.
Yep.
They said he looked into Henry Stinson's record and like, okay, there isn't actually like a transcript of what was said in that meeting, so you can kind of sort of say whatever you want, but he did actually have a honeymoon in Kyoto, so he went like, well, that was stricken off the record really fast. So what if it was a city that was beautiful but actually mattered to him? It's like, you know what, that makes sense.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you can first.
I was gonna say, in the 2 times that I've seen this film, did your audiences uncomfortably laugh when he said that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Mine did too.
He's literally with just the stripe of a pen saving the lives of 100,000 people to sacrifice another 100,000 some other city, and those people only got spared because the one guy has a petty reason to like the place. Like that's the most horrifying thing in the movie. The fact that some random bureaucrat can just go, I like this place. Let's not kill all the people there.
Yeah, it's a very it's a funny scene on the surface, but when you read deeper into it, it plays into the sort of like arrogance of like the American exceptionalism of all of this, that we are so obsessed with just winning the war and kind of taking revenge for Pearl Harbor that we're not really even considering the impact.
Yeah.
Well, also they also give an estimate of it can kill like 20,000 people. It's like that ended up being 90,000, so you're literally 4 times down.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I guess that's the question I have for all of you. What did you think of the lack of depiction of Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and even seeing some of the, I don't know, footage of the damage from survivors and the victims of the bombs in Japan?
I think Christopher Nolan made a smart choice in, instead of like actually showing the ramifications, we get this like the scene in the gymnasium where Oppie is in his head like seeing all of this imagery, and we see like people in the audience like their skin like melting off and some bodies like being reduced to ash. Like we don't because so much of this film is from the perspective of Oppenheimer, that it wouldn't really make sense to see the perspective of the victims of Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but because this is a movie like that takes place in a very crucial time in history, Nolan still sort of he does what he can to still like show the audience the ramifications.
I mean, he also is going off of the fact that this is an event that everyone is one of the most studied events of the past 75 years. Every year you can get a historical debate going on. Was it justified? Was it not? And there's like, what, dozens of movies in Japan about this, from Godzilla to, Brave of the Firefly. So if you want the Japanese perspective, do not worry. There's plenty of movies you can watch. You want that.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Like there are plenty of movies made in Japan that will probably work as a nice complement to Oppenheimer.
Yeah, double feature this with the Barefoot General.
Yes.
Ooh.
And not only this, but Meredith, I think that it was a very smart decision that Nolan opted to go down the route that he did. Had he shown what eventually happened to those citizens and constructed it, it would bring the movie. I mean, even though the subject matter was already on a level that it was, it would have brought the viewers' morale down to a place where it might not have been able to recover from. I'm afraid it would have been an accident waiting to happen, and that's why I think it was best to, from that perspective, leave it in the sense of the viewer's
great subtle scene
imagination.
when, like, right after the bomb drops, they're
Oh,
in a movie
exactly.
theater watching, like, they're being told slideshow what happened, and you can see people like whinging, and he's just looking inquisitively, but also just depressingly, like, but also it's like this is not a man who ever said he felt bad about this. He felt bad about nuclear proliferation, but he never outwardly said he felt bad for anyone in those two cities. So they're really kind of doing a nice going down that had felt some sorrow, but maybe not sorrow towards these people specifically, because he was just that kind of person.
And then going back, of course, to that final scene and leading up to that.
Well, that's why it's like it's an
moment.
American audience that he's watching melt, because maybe in a way he's not looking at the people of Japan, but he's looking at this is what could be done to my own people in a way. And also that's just for Nolan's own daughter that he melts.
Exactly. It's just that idea alone is enough of an impact. Had it would have been a big, not only from a even though it could have been straightforward from that presentation standpoint, it would have brought the viewers' morale down to a point where it wouldn't have been able to recover from.
Yeah, and also just that scene also was unfortunately true. There was actually a speech that he gave after Nagasaki where he was kind of a rah, yeah, we won the war, killed all those people, isn't that awesome? And there's just that it has to be the peak of the editing and the sound mixing. Like, okay, Trinity, obviously pretty great, but mixing in, like, the thumping of all those feet at the same time, like shrieks and shout that sound like cheers, but also screams. At one point, it sounds like you can almost hear a Sig Heil, as if Oppenheimer's creating his own little Holocaust in the future because of his own actions. And there's, people that look like they're cheering, and maybe they're not, or they're guy who's drunk, or maybe he's dying. It's a complete perfect mixture of editing and just, it's a horror scene. It's a horror movie scene.
It is. And this is the scene, Tommy, I kind of alluded to this in our mid-year review, that this is the scene that has convinced me that I think Christopher Nolan is ready to do like a full horror film. Like,
oh yeah,
like the dream project that I have that I really want to see Nolan do next is kind of taking a page from Del Toro's book and like doing a stop motion horror film.
Oh wow. The real question is what subgenre?
Ooh,
now that is a good question. I just know because Christopher Nolan is a big fan of the Quaid brothers, who are like, pretty big staples in stop motion animation. I just want to see him continuing to sort of broaden his horizons and just take on more more stories, like sort of outside of his comfort zone.
I say some sort of time horror based movie, because every movie he has always has some sort of fractured timeline. Even
That's
Dunkirk
right.
did it. So he should have like some sort of It Follows like time horror movie.
Ooh, that would be fun.
If one were to construct a feature film adaptation of Doctor Who and was looking for a director, I would write Nolan and IOU. But when I think of that type of storytelling, unless I knew, I would be not scared to make a pitch, but I just don't know if he would be up for that vein of storytelling. Like, you don't want to make a pitch to somebody who who you think in the back of your mind might say no. Like, think of because that's why when you think of Nolan directing like a James Bond movie, you think, I mean, he's already done Batman and he executive produced Man of Steel. You think, has he, unless he publicly stated it somewhere that I missed it, that he would return to such storytelling, like, you think he's moved on from that point in his career.
Yeah.
Oh, like, I mean, would be interesting from that note.
I
I
was
think
mentioned
the
like scenes that people
um,
people laugh, but also maybe a bit also a little bit concerned, like the bit with the Secretary of War. The one scene with President Truman, that also in my theater got several laughs.
oh, like when Truman after Oppie leaves, he's like, "Don't let that crybaby back in here."
Oh my
Which
The
god.
memes have been immaculate from that scene alone that I've seen on Twitter of like, I feel bad about the bomb. Truman being like, no one cares.
Yeah, well, that's again another example of like he's an obstacle, but everything Truman says is kind of right. It's like when people wake up in Japan, they don't see your face as the one who killed their children. It's me because I ordered it.
Oh, exactly. He's not wrong.
Yeah, and also that from the book, that is what happened. There's about three different variations of how that meeting went down, and one of them, he did actually hand him a handkerchief and go, "Oh, you got blood on your hands. Wipe it now." And he did say, actually, he said it even harsher. In like a memo after the meeting, he said, "I don't want to see that crybaby SOB ever again." I don't think he said it like an earshot of him, but like he did say that. And he did have that feeling of this guy thinks he's special and it's all his fault, and he's not remembering this is a team effort.
I think the question that I've got off the top of my head, if any particular moment in history came to mind on what you can see Christopher Nolan tackle, what would it be off the top of your head?
Oh God, because he's only done two historical movies, but they've been two amazing historical movies.
Fantastic, because he could still. It's not to the point where he's only done a few, and he could do something spectacular if he wanted to. Huh.
I mean, I remember reading someone said it wouldn't be a bad idea to do a quasi sequel, but from like the Soviet perspective on the H bomb.
Back then, he was safety for that.
You bring him back.
And bring back Gary Oldman to play Stalin.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
That
But
is
then-
how we do it.
And then you can tie in like Sergei Korolev and the Russian like space program. We're like, well, we built this H bomb. What are we going to use with it? Well, we have this rocket that we want to go up there, but we can put it over there.
Yeah, let him make the space race movie from the Soviet perspective.
I would
be
watch that.
fascinating.
I would love to see that.
That would
the
be
thing about the Soviet-
interesting.
Because like the Soviet space race, they're always, they're just the rival. They don't really talk about Sergei Korolev of Ukraine, one of the great scientists of his own era, who, with less material and less financial support, and also the gulag hanging over his head multiple times, managed to actually beat the U.S. on everything but the moon.
That would be fascinating. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, because like, that was actually that guy was actually I think exiled in the 30s during like Stalin's Great Purge, and he had to worm his way back into his good graces, and then eventually with Khrushchev, and then he became this beloved figure, and then I believe he actually died in an accident in like 1965, which caused the Soviet space race to just kind of collapse in on itself.
Christopher Nolan, call me.
Exactly.
Yes.
We have ideas. He likes this period of history, the 40s and 50s. Just what do you think you can do?
There's one more thing that I want to mention. I'd be remiss if I left this out. I've seen a lot of people compare this movie to Amadeus and how
A little bit.
Yeah, and how Oppenheimer is Mozart, while Robert Downey Jr.'s Louis Strauss is very much the Salieri of the movie.
This and Hamilton, thinking of recent pieces of work.
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely heavy ties to Amadeus.
And yet it's probably the most historically accurate of the three, since the actual relationship between Amadeus and Salieri is a bit debated. This one's like, no, we're pretty on record. These two genuinely hate each other's guts.
When you think about it from that perspective, there's no way that that they would do this, but that Universal would do this, I should say. But it just makes you wonder if they would take the risk in putting both in placing both Cillian Murphy and RDJ in the Best Actor race. That'd be a terrible idea. I know, because it happened. It happened once before. The last time that happened on a magnitude was in Thelma and Louise for Best Actress, but
which is fair, but also can't.
Well, it's possible because with those performances, but I mean, it just makes you wonder: would they do it for a story like this? Should they do it? No, but could they do it? It just
mostly because Strauss is mostly in the last third of the movie, which I guess puts him squarely in the supporting role, but he is the main character of the last third in a way.
Yeah.
The only reason they won't do it is if they think Robert Downey Jr. has like a genuine shot at winning Best Supporting Actor, they're not gonna risk putting him in lead.
Oh, he's definitely getting nominated, unless by the grace of
Yes.
God, unless by the grace of God, 5 other performances completely blow us away between now and
You could get a
New Year's
tie
Eve.
in supporting roles. You could have like Matt Damon also in there, perhaps.
But that risks splitting the vote too.
It
That's
does.
always
Exactly.
the fear of having a double nomination like
I can
that.
see 3 acting nominated. I can see Emily Blunt getting it for her second half of the movie. I can see
Yep.
Cillian Murphy, and I can see Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Could Emily Blunt get nominated? Yes, but I don't know if I could see that happening in addition to Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. in that respect.
I
I don't know if she
think
would win, but I think
she would get nominated, but she would not win. As of now, I don't see her winning.
But also, competition's not exactly very. I don't know exactly who else would also be in that category at this time.
At this particular time, but anything.
The other thing
In
is
Martin Scorsese, it's gonna be probably like Lily Gladstone. I've heard a lot
Yeah,
of
I
good
was
things
about to
about
say
her.
Lily
She might
Gladstone.
be in that.
She probably will.
Probably.
She will probably get in. Well, I say that, but then she could get snubbed, and that's a whole thing that could happen too. I don't know who would be supporting right now. Who would you pick for supporting from Barbie to go against Emily Blunt right
America
now?
Ferrera.
Yeah.
Maybe. I like her a lot, but I'm not sure.
I mean, it'd be fun if Kate McKinnon got it, but I don't think that would happen either.
That would be something else.
I would love that just for the chaos, but
Yes.
no, I don't think she has a shot.
I think Margot Robbie has a shot for actress.
100%. And also Greta Lee in Past Lives.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
getting off book a bit, but
No, nothing wrong with that at all. That's why we brought it up.
Oh yeah. Also, can I just mention the bizarreness of both of these movies also had lots of weird controversies around them, and not the ways you would ever expect.
The controversies surrounding both of these are
Amusing.
interesting and amusing at best. To oh my god, I can't read another one of these at worst.
Well, yeah. With the Barbie, I'm thinking about the fact this movie was apparently banned in China and the Philippines because they accidentally declared some island chain, I think like the Kukuri Islands, as like China. No, it was Japan. It was Japan and Philippines for some reason. We're just, no, this map
because
of
they
Asia
acknowledged
can't have it.
Taiwan is
Yeah.
why it was banned in China.
Yeah, they mentioned China and then the Kukuri Islands for Japan and the Philippines, which is a real okay. That's amusing. And then with India, it's how dare you pair the scenes from the Bhagavad Gita with a sex scene? Like, really? That's the part we're going to be talking about. And then, of course, is the bomb stuff. I'm surprised some people can walk out of this movie going, "Yep, that movie sure celebrated the atomic bomb." Oh yeah.
Well, all right. There are going to be people, no matter what, who will take maybe the wrong lessons from what's being shown here. And, I do think that there is a fear that some people watch Oppenheimer and take away the wrong lessons from the bomb and its implications. We're like, oh, that was really cool. We're, a superpower versus oh, this wrecked so many lives and it weighed heavily on the man who created it himself too. And we see how it played out in his life,
I just love the idea of someone watching the ending scene where he just, looks like, just dead inside at a pond and just thinking, that's a man who loves his creation. It's like, do you need to kill him perfectly with the camera and go, I was wrong about the bomb. It was the worst thing I ever made. I guess for some people in the back seats, you need to know that.
I would be horrified if this movie ended up in the same canon as Fight Club and other movies that are horribly misinterpreted by the wrong group of people.
That's not really happening so far. It's mostly been people saying that it's either too bomb or not critiquing the bomb enough. Which to be expected. There's always going to be that debate because it's just a heated debate. There's not anyone just going 15 reasons why Oppenheimer is the true hero of the film.
Well, I mean, we saw similar stuff after Joker came out. You talked about earlier about protagonists who are, just because they're protagonists doesn't mean they're the heroes of their story. Case in point, Joker. And still there were people who walked away being like, the Joker is my hero, or this is my true villain origin story, and I'm
That's the
like,
problem when you make a villain way too sympathetic. You sometimes kind of lead into that. And with Oppenheimer, they kind of do. They don't actually make him very sympathetic in many ways. They go out of their way to not do that. So I don't really think there's that fear of most people are gonna walk away going, this guy, great guy. Most people are gonna walk going, well, that's a conflicted soul. And like we're gonna go, what a terrible person. Those are all valid
oh, I
things.
agree. And also, I think we skip over the fact that like he was very much a womanizer, and in the third
Yes.
act during his hearing, like one of the women that he was like the woman that he was staying at their house, and they were saying like, oh, like her husband died of a broken heart because of their affair, and he was like, no, he didn't do that because he never found out. And
That was so
like
cold.
that was so cold, and that was so like, oh, by the way, there was this other third woman involved too, but like we don't have time
you see
for
her a few
that.
times like smiling at Oppenheimer. And
Yes,
wondering,
we
"Is that a
do.
thing?" And that was Richard Fetterman's wife, and it's like, well, he died, in 1955. It's like, oh, you cheated on him, and you're like, well, I didn't kill him because he never found out. Not my fault. It's like,
There are some pretty cold lines of dialogue. And also this is a point I've made about other Nolan movies, that despite the the subject matter of this movie, it can be pretty funny when it wants to be.
oh yeah, like the bit that I think made those people laugh the hardest in my theater is when they're like, September the 1st, 1939. This is a day people will
gosh.
remember. And it's like, we got some bad news. It's like, oh, what could ruin my day? Oh, the war started.
That, and then also the first time Matt Damon meets Cillian Murphy, that scene there also provided a few laughs in my theater. Just as far as like, yeah, your reputation precedes you, and like he kind of he's smart back to him, and that went over well with my audiences.
Yeah. Also, even like his later scene in like the hearings, where he's like, well, in my honest opinion, I wouldn't have given anybody security clearance.
Yeah, Damon really walked away with some of the best moments.
And also, he I don't know, is he did he bulk up for this role? Because he's definitely not noticeably heftier than Oppenheimer, which is true. If you look at pictures of the real like Leslie Groves, he was a very rotund fella, while Oppenheimer was like rail thin. Like they make a point of that. Eat an apple, please. You're like 110 pounds.
I wouldn't have been surprised, because was it the Informant? Was that the name of the movie where he played a computer guy?
Yes.
Yep, that was the Informant.
Yeah, he did gain about 30, I want to say 30 pounds for that role. I mean, he's done weight gain routines for roles before, not Christian Bale type of extreme, but he's done it before. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did it for Air and then kept the same mindset for this role as well, because
he's notably eating in a lot of scenes. I think that might be reinforcing that fact. They didn't mention it in the movie, but that it's entirely usually agreed that the term fat man and little boy was apparently the lower staff making fun of Oppenheimer and Groves.
Interesting.
Yeah, which this makes more sense compared to, and probably worth mentioning, this is like what, the 5th or 6th movie about Oppenheimer and the bomb, and pretty far away the best one. It's a little bit better than like Batman and Little Boy from the 1980s.
Seen those other films, but and this is recency bias, but I would say this feels like the definitive one to watch.
Oh, it is. Like, well, the other movies, it's if you're not a big John Cusack fan, you can see his face melted off by a nuclear accident. That's about the biggest praise you can put that movie if you don't like John Cusack.
And with Matt, I'll say two more things. One, going back to Matt Damon, even if he doesn't get nominated for Best Supporting Actor alongside RDJ, it would be surprising if Amazon doesn't promote a campaign for Air that would see him get nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role alongside Cillian Murphy. That would be a story in and of itself. But
that could happen.
Oh, it's definitely possible. Like when the time is right, as I was saying in our mid-year 2023 report, available now on renegadepopculture.com. I would say that when the time is right, expect Amazon to go all in for award season consideration in their campaign. But circling back to what I was saying earlier about announcement, teaser trailers, and their special significant meaning, this particular one with that Oppenheimer quote, "I'm death, the destroyer of worlds," I can't think of. Tally, you may know the answer to this, because I can't think of it off the top of my head. What was that? Where did he quote that specifically? Because he read it in the movie, but he was on like some program where he said that exact scripture quote. What was it?
Let me double check that because I actually do have the book right next to me, but it was kind of like it's not quite like like Disney Tonight or something like that. It was like one of those. I think it was an ABC program.
Okay. Yeah, he was that quote was utilized in the announcement teaser trailer for Warner Bros. And Legendary Pictures Godzilla. This is the trailer that debuted at San Diego Comic-Con in 2012, I want to say. It was a special announcement teaser it was a full 2 years. It was a
1965 NBC documentary called "Decision to Drop the Bomb," which he I believe he was about a year away from dying of lung cancer when he appeared on that, which is why he has the most 1,000-yard stare ever seen on a man.
Yep, going. Yeah, that was that one moment, that one moment, and the first time you hear that quote, ironically enough, was in that announcement teaser, and then of course talking about that special meaning. Fast forwarding, Nolan is known to do this by himself, and even at that point, you think of when Dark Knight was released, that was the first teaser for Terminator Salvation, announcement teaser that came out over a year in advance. This is why weekends like this were so important, so impactful, and it makes that experience. It's what speaks to the viewers on that front and makes the movie theater that magical place, as Nicole Kidman described in her AMC bumper.
Yep. Also, I will say that documentary, Decision to Drop the Bomb, that whole bit where Oppenheimer's going on about some people cried, some people look silent. He's basically rewriting his own history because as in the film, you can see most of the people cheering in happiness. It's another one of those, oh, woe is me. We all knew from the start when you did a terrible thing. No, you're kind of retroactively trying to make yourself seem like something you're not.
Yeah, almost like he's kind of like his own martyr.
Oh, actually, in the scene when he's talking before the bomb goes off, he's quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, and that is correct. But he's quoting a different passage where it's just like the strength of the people shall prevail. It's a much more heroic kind of quote, which other people wrote down. He did say. So for him to say, but I was really thinking of this more depressing quote. It's like maybe you were, but the way you're characterizing everyone else is a little bit sanctimonious.
I want to start to wrap this up, but before we head out of here, any final thoughts that we have on this film? I know we had a lot more to say about this one because, well, to be honest, there is a lot more movie in this movie. But Meredith, your final thoughts?
It's incredible that Christopher Nolan was able to take American Prometheus, and if you want to believe the story around it, that he was gifted this book by Robert Pattinson. Not sure if it's actually true or not, but it's a nice story. We can thank the current Batman for giving the previous Batman director this project.
Also, James Woods, weirdly enough.
Yeah, James Woods his name popped in there. I was like, huh.
Because he's really good friends with one of the surviving author of American Prometheus. So I guess for some reason he had.
That's why.
That's wild. I was like, why is James Woods? Is there a different James Woods? But all right, there you go.
Yep.
It's just really impressive that Christopher Nolan was able to accomplish as much as he does. I do think that there is definitely criticism towards, what was shown, what wasn't shown as far as the bomb goes. And I do think it is important that if you see Oppenheimer, that you should seek out, further resources and different, documentaries and movies to show the impact that it had on Japan and just like the world as a whole. I think that's really valuable to just not walk away from this movie being like, here is the life of this complicated man. And he is. And I really appreciate that Christopher Nolan never really let up the tension of that. In the same way that I said about Barbie, of like Barbie was completely in tension with itself, and I feel the same way about Oppenheimer, and that is it's really impressive to do that with a biopic and not necessarily have one straight perspective on this legendary figure who was on the cover of Time magazine, but also basically handed us the keys to potentially our own destruction as well. So I'm just, again, in awe of what he's done. Can't wait for the next Christopher Nolan movie, whatever he does. Also, Tofno, call me if you want to make the space race movie from the Soviets' perspective. You know where to find me. Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yes, that movie definitely needs to happen at some point.
The movie has to be called La Luna.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
Yes.
Tyler, your final thoughts on Oppenheimer?
This movie was originally expected to make $45 million. It ended up making, on its opening weekend, it made 83.2, I believe, which makes it either I believe, the second highest grossing biopic movie of all time, beat out just slightly by American Sniper. This movie made more money on its opening weekend than The Passion of the Christ. And it's a 3-hour movie with no gunfire, 2 or 3 explosions at most, no depictions of war, nothing that actually you would get for like a mainstream blockbuster film that gets people in the seats. And yet it did, and it continues to make an impressive amount of money. It's up to about $400 million so far worldwide. This is not a blockbuster. This is a heady intellectual movie about a very important person that did a very important thing that still impacts us to this day. This is in the middle of an entire conflict with Russia and Ukraine, where Russia is continuously promising to nuke the world. You people shouldn't be usually seeing a movie about nuclear annihilation and going, "I'm going to see that," but they are, and I just love it. I just love that people are actually seeking out this heady, complicated film. And also the book sales are going up like skyrocketing. It's like one of the top 10 best-selling books on Amazon right now for like 2 weeks. I'm just proud that I can say, well, maybe the average cinema goer is a lot smarter than people think. Yeah, they'll go see like, Fast 10 or whatever, and that's perfectly fine. But a lot of them want something that has actual meat, something that actually says something, and something that actually is still relevant to this world. And I'm so happy.
Indeed. Tommy, your final thoughts?
Steven Spielberg told Tom Cruise that Top Gun Maverick saved the cinematic business last year. He was absolutely correct. This year, despite initial reservations with Oppenheimer kicking Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 out of its IMAX screenings, one photo posted on Twitter featuring Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie promoting both films led to Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie returning the favor. From there, it took off in mannerisms that Francis Ford Coppola coined as a new golden age for cinema. What an achievement the Barbenheimer phenomenon is. A generational cinematic experience unlike anything we've seen before.
Yeah, well said.
The president of the United States saw Oppenheimer yesterday, and that was one of the bigger newses for him.
Yes.
Imagine that. Imagine that. You're watching this movie and you just hear an old man go, "Wow, that's really intense." And you're like, "Oh, it's the president of the United States."
See, if the president of the United States is going to support this movie, then you know it's worth the price of admission. And that honestly can be said about both Barbie and Oppenheimer. Barbenheimer,
it is the American story in 2 movies.
Exactly.
It's incredible that you've got 2 respected, celebrated directors making a movie exactly the way that they want to, with limited to 0 CG involved. And it's completely their story, and the audiences showed up and then some. That is the cinematic dream come to life. I am so happy for both of these filmmakers. Like, we are living, like, Barbenheimer has proven to be just this like Cinderella story, from a meme to a rivalry to we come to Barbenheimer for magic, and that is what we got.
It's not Morbius.
These to put it succinctly, these 2 movies are why I love this medium, why I love storytelling, and why I'm very much looking forward to a new generation of filmmakers being inspired by these 2 movies. And also, I hope the number one takeaway from this weekend is that studios recognize the importance of the people who are making the movies that make these executives the multi-millions that they earn. And as we said earlier, listen to the actors, listen to the writers, listen to the people whose work directly impacts the year-end grosses of these studios. Now, with all of that said, we are about to head out of here. So before we go, first of all, Meredith, thank you for joining us once again. Where can everyone find you online?
Thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Twitter or X or whatever Elon is calling that social media platform at Meredith Loftus. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky at Meredith Loftus as well. You can find my writings at Next Best Picture, Collider, Marvelous Geeks. And yeah, you can just find me around on the interwebs, wherever we end up these days.
And Tyler, where can everyone find you?
Oh, they can find me on Twitter. I'm just calling it that because I'm stubborn. At at BioWD, where I'll be just talking history with a couple friends, including the Cynical Historian. You can find me on several Discords, including the Cynical Discord server, where I do a lot of history talks. And my YouTube channel is finally out, The Storytellers Guild. My first video about who was history's first serial killer is out, and I'm currently working on the big documentary that has consumed my life the last 3 years.
Nice.
Yay!
And Tommy, where can everyone find you?
You can follow me on X, the website formerly known as Twitter. It'll always be Twitter. There's no right or wrong answer to it. At T_Hughes35, YouTube, Instagram, Letterboxd, Linktree, at the T-Money35. And be sure to follow me on my second Instagram dedicated to cooking, at Cooking with T-Money. You can check out my latest works for the My Life publication, featuring stories about Denville Community Media and New Jersey-born driver Stephen Malozzi. Last word on sports, you can check out my latest feature lobbying for the ESPY Awards to consider motorsport teams for nomination of their biggest category, the recognition of best team. And apologies to Matt Donato, we ran out of time.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/Coach K42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Marquee. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.